For every actor the DCEU gets right, there is one who becomes impossible to talk about for all the wrong reasons. And nobody in the history of this franchise made it harder to root for a character than Ezra Miller. When Miller was first cast as Barry Allen back in 2014, the reaction was quietly optimistic. They were unconventional, intense, and brought a nervous energy to the role that actually worked on screen. Their appearance in Justice League gave the Flash a goofy, lovable awkwardness that fans responded to warmly. A solo film had been in development for years. There was real excitement about what they could do with a full movie behind them. Then 2020 arrived, and the story started. Footage surfaced of Miller choking a woman at a bar in Iceland. The video went viral within hours. No charges were filed, but the image was out there and it did not go away.
You learn it? Did you want to fight? Is that the deal? Whoa, bro.
In 2022, Miller was arrested twice in Hawaii, once for disorderly conduct at a karaoke bar, once for throwing a chair that injured a woman. Then came accusations of grooming and controlling behavior from multiple families across different states. Restraining orders, a burglary charge in Vermont. Each story arrived before the last one finished trending. Warner Brothers was completely trapped. The Flash had already been filmed. It had already cost over $200 million. Test audiences said the actual movie was good. Michael Keaton returning as Batman alone was worth the price of admission. But their lead actor had become unmarketable. Miller was absent from the entire press tour. No Comic-Con, no talk shows, no interviews whatsoever. The studio released the film and quietly held their breath. It made $271 million worldwide against a $200 million budget before marketing costs. A catastrophic underperformance for a film DC had genuinely expected to anchor the next era of their universe. While Ezra Miller became one of the most talked about faces in the DCEU for all the wrong reasons, our next actor became the most beloved version of DC's most iconic character without a single scandal, Henry Cavill as Superman, and the story of how Warner Brothers broke something they never managed to fix. From the very first frame of Man of Steel, Cavill looked like he had stepped out of a comic panel. The build, the jawline, the gravity of the performance. He was not trying to charm you or make you laugh. He played Clark Kent like a man genuinely torn between who he was and who the world needed him to be. His performances in both sit considerably higher in the minds of everyone who watched them. Then came The Betrayal, a faceless cameo in Shazam, a post-credit tease in Black Adam, then a full public announcement that the cape was his again, and 3 weeks later, James Gunn pulled the plug. No sequel, no proper farewell, no explanation beyond a brief, bloodless statement, just silence. Cavill's response told you everything about who he is. He thanked the fans. He wished the new DC universe well. He was never just an actor playing Superman. He was a fan who built gaming PCs, painted Warhammer figures, and talked comic lore like the rest of us. He was one of us. To this day, edits of his Superman still go viral. People still call him the real one. The studio moved on. The fans never did. While Henry Cavill brought quiet conviction and genuine presence to every scene he was given, our next actor brought something very different to the DCEU, something that made an entire audience ask the same question at exactly the same moment. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, and the casting decision the DCEU never recovered from. When the announcement came in 2014, the reaction was confusion more than outrage. Eisenberg had just been Oscar nominated for The Social Network. He was smart and intense and precise. Perhaps they were going for a younger, more unpredictable version of the character. Perhaps there was a genuine creative vision behind the choice. What arrived on screen in Batman vs. Superman was a twitching, giggling, scenery-chewing performance that felt less like the greatest criminal mind in DC history, and more like someone doing a bad impression of the Joker while clearly auditioning for a completely different film. The nervous tics, the rambling monologues, the jar of urine delivered to a senator in a public hearing. Critics called it one of the most miscalculated performances in comic book movie history. Audiences agreed. Batman vs. Superman made $873 million worldwide, a number that sounds impressive until you learn it cost $250 million to produce, and was DC's attempt at their own Avengers moment. The film holds a 28% score on Rotten Tomatoes. Lex Luthor is supposed to be the most terrifying man in any room he enters. Jesse Eisenberg is a talented actor. Lex Luthor demands stillness, menace, and a cold intelligence that makes everyone around him smaller. Eisenberg brought the exact opposite, and the DCEU paid for that every single time it asked to be taken seriously after. After Jesse Eisenberg proved that the wrong casting can undermine an entire film before it even finds its footing, our next actor proved the complete opposite. That when the casting is exactly right, even a character barely anyone knew could make an entire audience fall in love. Zachary Levi as Shazam, and the film that reminded a franchise what fun actually feels like. Before 2019, Shazam was not a household name. He was a DC deep cut. A kid who shouts a magic word and transforms into an adult superhero. On paper, it sounded gimmicky. On screen, in Levi's hands, it became one of the most purely joyful superhero films of the entire decade. The performance only works if you completely believe there is a 14-year-old kid inside that adult body. A kid who has never had a single moment of power in his life and suddenly has all of it. Levi understood that down to every small detail. The giddiness when he first flies. The complete panic of being called a hero when he has no idea what that means. The way he flexes in shop windows and asks strangers if they want to see something cool. Every single beat landed exactly right. Shazam made $366 million worldwide on a $100 million budget and earned a 90% score on Rotten Tomatoes, making it one of the best-reviewed DCEU films in the franchise's entire history. Off-screen, Levi is everything the character suggests he should be. He shows up to children's hospitals in costume. He speaks openly about his own mental health struggles with a candor that surprises people. He treats the fans, especially kids, like they are the entire point of the whole thing. He did not just play Shazam, he understood why Shazam matters, and that is the rarest thing in this entire franchise. While Zachary Levi made the DCEU feel light and joyful again, our next actor attempted to go in the darkest, most committed direction imaginable and somehow landed somewhere that felt stranger than anything Shazam ever did. Jared Leto as the Joker. And the method acting experiment that nobody asked for, nobody enjoyed, and nobody has stopped talking about since. When Leto was cast, there was genuine intrigue. He had just won an Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club. He was unpredictable and magnetic in a way that suggested he might bring something genuinely new to a character already defined by Heath Ledger's unreachable 2008 performance. The early trailers looked menacing. Then the set stories started leaking. To stay in character, Leto reportedly sent his Suicide Squad co-stars used condoms and a live rat, delivered in gift boxes. He mailed bullets to Will Smith. He left dead animals in people's trailers. He reportedly stayed so fully in character for the entire production that multiple cast members, by their own accounts, found the environment genuinely uncomfortable. After all that preparation, all that commitment, all those dead animals and violated personal boundaries, Jared Leto had less than 10 minutes of screen time in the theatrical cut. Audiences ranked his Joker among the weakest interpretations of the character ever committed to film. Joaquin Phoenix arrived 3 years later with a standalone Joker film that won the Venice Golden Lion, grossed over $1 billion worldwide, and earned Phoenix an Academy Award. Nobody needed to make the comparison out loud. It made itself completely. The Joker demands a performer who disappears into chaos. Leto never disappeared, he just ensured everyone around him was uncomfortable enough to keep talking about him, and they did talk, just not in the way he had planned. And standing right there in the exact same film that Jared Leto made so uncomfortable for everyone involved, was an actor doing the complete opposite, walking onto a set full of chaos, into a role nobody had successfully put on screen before, making it look like she had been doing it her entire career. Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, and how she became the DCEU's most enduring legacy while everything around her kept collapsing. Harley Quinn is a genuinely complex character to land, a brilliant psychiatrist turned weapon, driven by obsessive love and a complete embrace of chaos. Funny and terrifying and broken and completely self-aware about all three things simultaneously. Getting that balance wrong is easy. Getting it right required someone who understood not just the performance, but the psychology underneath it. Robbie understood both on day one. From the moment she appears in Suicide Squad, unpredictable and magnetic, swinging a baseball bat like she owns every room she walks into, it was immediately clear that everyone else in that film was a supporting character in her movie. Critics who dismissed the film entirely still pause to single out Robbie as exceptional. She won a People's Choice Award, a Critics' Choice Award, and the most important prize of all, she made audiences genuinely love a villain. When James Gunn announced the new DC universe would not include her version of Harley, Robbie was publicly gracious. She wished the future well. She acknowledged the legacy without bitterness. While Margot Robbie carried Suicide Squad on her back and turned chaos into a career-defining performance, she was not the only new face that film introduced. And unfortunately for the film, for the franchise, and for the villain at its center, the other major debut did not go quite as planned. Cara Delevingne as Enchantress, and the Portal dance sequence that launched 1,000 YouTube compilations and has never once been used for promotional purposes. Delevingne came into the role with genuine momentum. She was one of the most recognizable faces on the planet, a supermodel turned actress riding the wave of paper towns. Warner Brothers were betting on her star power and visual presence to anchor the film's central threat. On paper, the ingredients were there. What arrived on screen was a performance so widely described as unintentionally comedic that it developed its own dedicated corner of the internet and has lived there ever since. Suicide Squad made $746 million worldwide, driven almost entirely by investment in Robbie and Will Smith, not by any engagement with the film's villain. The movie sits at 26% on Rotten Tomatoes and won the Razzie for Worst Picture. Cara Delevingne is a charismatic presence in real life. On screen, in this role, something went seriously wrong between the casting room and the final cut. Nobody has ever fully explained what. The DCEU simply moved on and did not look back. After everything this franchise has been through, after the scandals and the miscasting and the disappointed box offices and the reboots and the restarts, we end with the one actor who looked at a character the entire world had spent 50 years treating as a punchline and turned him into the highest-grossing DC film of all time. Jason Momoa as Aquaman, and the story of how one performance completely rewrote a character's entire legacy. Before Momoa, Aquaman was the joke. The orange shirt, the fish telepathy, the king of a part of the world nobody thought to care about. He had been a pop culture punchline for decades, the bottom of every superhero tier list, the character you got assigned at the party when everyone else had already claimed someone cooler. Then Momoa appeared in Batman vs. Superman for roughly 3 minutes. He said nothing. He emerged from the ocean floor looking like an ancient force of nature. And the entire internet immediately asked one question: when is the Aquaman movie? That movie came out in 2018 and made $1.148 billion worldwide. It remains to this day the highest grossing film in DC history, more than any Batman film, more than any Superman film, more than Justice League. A character everybody laughed at for 50 years outgrossed all of them, combined. What Momoa understood, what he brought to every interview and every scene and every frame of that film, was that Aquaman was never meant to be taken seriously the way DC kept insisting its characters needed to be. He was supposed to be magnificent and slightly ridiculous and completely unstoppable, like the ocean itself. Momoa played him with a surfer's ease, a warrior's physicality, and a warmth that made you root for him even when the CGI budget was clearly being stretched beyond its limits. Off-screen, he rescues animals. He advocates for clean water access for indigenous communities. He shows up to fan events looking genuinely surprised that anyone wants to meet him. When the new DC universe was being assembled, Momoa texted James Gunn himself to campaign for the role of Lobo. He got it. Of course he got it. Jason Momoa is the most loved actor in the DCEU, not because he had the best material, not because his films were the most critically acclaimed, but because he took the character nobody wanted, gave it absolutely everything he had, and produced $1 billion of proof that he was right and the entire world was wrong. In a universe built on doubt and disappointment and endless reboots, Jason Momoa just kept showing up. And showing up, it turns out, was always more than enough. So there you have it. the most hated and the most loved actors in the DCEU. We started where it all fell apart with Ezra Miller, passed through the grace of Henry Cavill, the disaster of Eisenberg's